Hello, everybody. How's things? My name's Gareth McGinnis. I'm 23 from Derry. I'm actually a sports coach, coach football for Maiden City Soccer. Obviously, at the minute, we've been shut down because of this COVID pandemic that we're all on. So basically, haven't been doing a lot. Um, there's a new circuit breaker coming in now in Northern Ireland on the 27th for 2 weeks, which basically closes all non-essential retail, hospitality, all sport and leisure, for example. But for me, we've been in lockdown since the start of October. Um, in the northwest, actually, the bars, restaurants, cafes all shut. Um, my sports has been stopped. So for me, I haven't really no really interest in going out and shopping. To be honest, no for clothes. I haven't really been out of town or nothing like that. But that's all been shut down now as well. I've actually just been really looking forward to the weekends and the midweeks to watch the football. But apart from that, not really been doing much after games, really. I got on Facebook to see or Twitter to see the fallout after the games, and sometimes I'll throw a post up and get people comment under it, and vice versa. You would see someone else's post, and you might comment under it. You might just read somebody else's comments, but just especially since it's lockdown, I've seen loads of football posts going up, and you might see 30, 40 comments flying in, and boys just debating football. So for me, obviously, I've done a video back in April. Never really followed up on it. Just wanted to give an update in football, but for now, like I'm really looking to get a podcast going. So perfect time to do it. Obviously, we're on lockdown. Can't really go outside the house unless it's for an essential journey. So more reason to get people involved in football, have a chat about it instead of just writing on their Facebook. Hopefully, this show will give people a platform to come on, debate, and have a bit of crack as well. So, going to give you an introduction to sort of what's going to be coming up on the show tonight. Was actually chatting to a few mates today and just wanted to give an introduction to channel myself before bringing anybody on. But just a few topics that we come up we sort of came across and wrote down a few questions, and then they said maybe you should answer these here and give your opinion on them and see what sort of comes back from it. So first topic was behind closed doors football. Has it been a success or not so much a success? For me, it's been a success because for a lot of people, including me, probably didn't think it would be that good. It wouldn't be entertaining. It wouldn't be great to watch. You'd see a lot of nils, intensity, and games wouldn't be there. But then the opposite. There's actually been going to get into it now. There's been more goals, more penalties, more unpredictable results as well. So getting back to the stats there, if you look at goals, there's been in the Premier League this season, they're averaging 3.14 goals a game compared to 2.72 from last year. If you look at penalties, there's been 41 penalties this year compared to 92 last year, and there were only 8 games in the season, and we're almost halfway to the total. And I'm going to get on that a wee bit more on the show later on. Ties into our topic, but even when you look at unpredictability, you look at results. There was 36% home wins this year only, compared to 43% home wins last year. Not a massive difference. That's the away ones. There's been 45% away wins in the league this season compared to just 29% last year. So a massive rise in away ones this year. Now, that has to be down to the lack of fans, no fans on the ground. Can only mean that maybe when players go there and all the players go out on the pitch, obviously that crowd, the home crowd roar and the passion and the atmosphere, it's obviously not creating that home atmosphere for the players. So it's almost like it doesn't really matter where the game is played. It's just two teams on that day playing a match. So the home advantage seems to have been wiped out. So obviously that I think that adds to the drama because like Liverpool are one team are notoriously strong at home. Now so far this season they've been pretty good at home. But if you look at our teams, like I even think if you look at Man United, haven't won a home game all season. Spurs have only won one game at home all season. Chelsea, they've dropped points at home. So these stronger teams are not being as consistent at home. But if you look at Spurs and Leicester away from home, they've been winning 4 in a row, 5 in a row. So they're doing really well away from home. So all in all, so far there's been 245 goals in the 78 games. I've seen like a ratio. If this scoring keeps continuing, it's going to blow the highest ever goals in a Premier League season by over 300. So I don't know. I think we're on for a really exciting season, a really unpredictable season, as you can see from the league this season so far. Get Leicester on 18 points, Spurs 17, Liverpool 17, Chelsea 16. It's really tight compared to like last season. Liverpool ran away with it, whereas the season Man City there a couple of years ago ran away with it. So it's going to be really tight. I think you could see 3 or 4 teams towards the end of the season being very close. Now, so that adds to the drama. So far for me, it's been a really good success. Now, obviously, we all want the fans back. Now there's talk of fans coming back now in December. Obviously, it won't be full crowds, but I think December is going to be unlikely. We've been talking from the start of the season. It was October, then November, then December. I think until there's a vaccine comes in, there'll not be massive crowds at games because it's going to be very difficult to control the spread of the virus. Now, so if, for example, if for just say for some reason you can't get fans on all for the rest of the year, I think you still have interest in football from fans, and they'll continue to watch, and it'll still be an exciting season. So there's no rush on it really. Financially, obviously, the clubs will want the fans back, and I think the fans will really want to get back to watching their team. The fans that used to go every week. But for me, I'm really enjoying it anyway, so it makes no real difference. Second topic, now this is going to be a really controversial one, was VAR. So VAR stands for, so it's Video Assistant Referee. I think over the years there was a massive campaign to get stuff like this in, goal line technology, which has been a success. I think for bar one incident in the Premier League, it's been quite a success. But VAR's not been that successful so far. Now it's only its second season in England. Now it was really poor last year, and there was calls for it to be pulled out this year. But the FA had insisted that it was going to be an improved way of using it. Referees, for example, are going to be checking the monitors instead of just listening to the referee. But for me, the issues are still there. I think the biggest issue around it is I think the referees are being protected too much. I think they're all friends with each other. It's like anything. If you work with people, you get friendly with them. I understand that. But I think if a referee makes a bad decision in certain games, it's almost like the referee that's in the VAR room is afraid to overturn it to embarrass them if it's a really bad one. You've seen that a few times this year. There was one against Spurs, I think. It was the first time this year that a referee went over the monitor and didn't overturn it, even though I think everybody that watched it saw it was a clear foul on Højbjerg, for example. But again, he didn't overturn it. We've seen a few penalty instances this year where it just looks like a clear penalty and they just haven't overturned it. And give the penalty. It's almost like they're embarrassed to call out the referee. So I think that's the biggest issue at the minute. We've seen one with Van Dijk there a few weeks ago when I think the VAR was David Coote, I think he was. But he was actually unaware of a certain rule. Didn't realise that even though Van Dijk was offside, the challenge from Pickford could still be given a red card. So people are blaming the technology as well. But I think the biggest issue with it is the referees' incompetency. So I think you can't really blame the technology because we're all seeing replays of it. It's down to the referees to make the decisions. So until they can maybe stop protecting the referees, and for referees to come out after games and even explain why they've made a decision or why it's not been overturned, I think you're going to get this constant, we don't want VAR because it's so unclear, it's inconsistent. And as I said, it was actually a penalty decision for the start of the season that went against my team, Spurs, and I said I was raging at the time, but I was thinking that's going to go against us this year. It's going to go for us this year. It's going to happen to every team where 1 week VAR has done them a favour and other weeks it's really, really hurt them. So I think it's one of them ones you're just going to accept it now and get on with it. But I think there's massive room for improvement. And no doubt it's going to affect by games this year. It's going to affect maybe teams finishing first, second. It could be the difference between getting relegated. So there's going to be a massive controversy surrounding it. And for me, if you go back through the years, there was always controversy in football anyway. But I think now when it's getting looked at and it's not being fixed, I think that's what annoys fans. I think fans can accept human error. But when a referee or an official looks at a replay 100 times and you've got 5 or 6 people saying clear penalty, and then it doesn't happen, it's really, really frustrating. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree on that there one. Now, didn't really want to get into the penalties there because I wanted to bring up this next bit, and it's the handball rule. Now, this is why we're seeing loads of penalties this year. It's an absolute nonsense because we've seen a penalty last week on the Man City Liverpool game where I think De Bruyne swung at him and it actually hits his arm, his armpit, which is hardly basically beside his arm, and it's not really in a natural position, but penalties give. So it's almost like if you swing the ball into the box now, you actually see defenders petrified when the ball comes on the box. They're trying to get their arm behind their back because they're absolutely terrified of the ball hitting their arm because they know it's going to be a possible penalty. I've seen so many 40, as I said, 41 penalties already this season. So it's going to absolutely smash last season's 93 out of the water. We're only 8 games on. And if you look at a lot of the penalties, it's because of the handball. So again, you could be dominant in a game, and last minute somebody swings a ball into the box, hits someone in the arm, penalty scored, drop 2 points. So it's really frustrating for fans, and I think all fans are in agreement. I think even when it goes for them, they're embarrassed when it goes for them because they're like, geez, that's never a penalty. Never a penalty. And again, this is where we'll stick up for referees. It's not their fault. This is one where it's the rules by FIFA that needs fixing. The referees are under, it's basically a law. They have to give what the rules are. And when they go over and that's when they go over to the monitor and they see what they're seeing, it's in the rules, it's a penalty. So I think that's something that the FIFA needs to fix themselves. I think it was UEFA's president that actually wrote the FIFA's president saying that the rule needs fixing ASAP because it's wrecking the big games, and it's actually getting players now. They have to be practicing it. They must be. I mean, if you're a manager now, you must be saying to your players, right, if just swing the ball into the box, and you know what, if it hits somebody's arm, I have a chance of a penalty. So it really needs fixing for me. Now, again, there's been loads of debate on how can VAR be fixed? How can we how can we improve it? And again, you can't really blame the technology, as I said. So one rule for me was that why not get ex-professionals and do the VAR? So have a referee, and have an ex-pro. So you're not just looking at a referee's point of view, you're looking at it from a player's point of view as well. So the problem with a lot of these referees, or they haven't played at a high level, or maybe they don't understand the game, or there's this. I'm sure they do, but there's that element to it. So if you have a defender in there, for example, and he's saying, look, there's no way he can get his arm out of the way, or for example, and they can explain their point of view to it, it might stop these silly penalties being given. So that's one way of going about it. Plus, as well, you could have strikers on there, as well. And you see a lot of penalties where there's accusations of cheating or diving. Big difference between diving and there's being smart. You see a lot of strikers now, maybe they're trying to initiate contact. So maybe if you get a striker on there that's played the game, can maybe talk about that side of the game. They can say, look, what a clear penalty is, and then look, he's ready to see the referee. Don't give a penalty. So I think this is something that can definitely improve the game. I'm not really going to get into players because you could look at every team. Every team's got players that try to win penalties. So Harry Kane's been on the spotlight, obviously. I'm not going to try and defend him because he does do it. But every team's got players that do it. Some are better than others. I think the best at it is Jamie Vardy. Hence why Leicester have 8 penalties this year. Absolutely brilliant at winning penalties, but he's also brilliant at making it very difficult for a referee to decide who initiated the contact. Was it him or the defender? He's really, really good at it. And he's won a lot of penalties. As dates back to even Leicester won the Premier League in 2015-16. So yeah, a lot of improvement around that side of the game for me. So moving on, I'm going to talk about this, and this is something that's really annoyed a lot of football fans as well, was the international breaks since the season started. Now, if you go back the September, the season started late this year, obviously, because last year it finished late. There was actually an international break before the season started, and already fans were raging about that. I think the first weekend of the season, there was a lot of players that were unavailable because of fitness issues. And you had managers rowing with international managers. And again, it sort of happened in October there. And then this year one has been the worst so far. Now, we're not just talking about too many. We're talking about too many games as well, but the COVID issue as well. The issue around internationals at the moment is there's a lot of teams have players playing all around the world in different leagues. So they could be meeting up with players. For example, you won't see it too much in England, but if you look at teams like Arsenal, you have Aubameyang who plays for Gabon. I can't think of too many more Gabon players in the Premier League and what kind of level they're playing at. So are they being regularly tested at their own clubs? You look at Egypt there, where Salah and from Liverpool and El Nani from Arsenal got COVID. You look at Matt Doherty from Spurs, he got COVID. Now you look at the Irish national team, it's loaded with a lot of Championship players, League One players, League Two players, League of Ireland players. So again, you're mixing a lot of levels there together. Hence, this is why a lot of COVID's being spread about and why managers are unhappy. But one of the big talking points has been the amount of games that's been played in these international breaks. I was counting. For most teams, they were playing 3 games over 6 days. So they were playing Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. And at least one of them games was usually a friendly. which is completely pointless for me. Why risk injury to more players? They've already got a massive schedule coming up because of the COVID last year, cutting into this year. We've basically got, I think in the Premier League, there's 4 or 5 weeks now in January and February where they have to play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. Also, teams in Europe at the minute are playing Saturday, Tuesday, or Sunday, Thursday, for example. So there's so many games coming up. Managers are absolutely stretched from with injuries. You're seeing a lot of muscle injuries. If you look at Liverpool at the minute, seems to be an absolute, I don't know if it's to do with training, but there's a lot of injuries in their camp, and they're looking at 5 or 6, 7 players at this weekend, and the international break's not helped. So you can see why there's a lot of unhappiness around the international breaks at the moment. Big thing for me for the internationals is, were they really that important, the games? They weren't. I understand the playoff games that happened last month and then the finals this month, which is fine. But if you look at these friendlies and these Nations League games, you as there a mass, are they really necessary? Like, could the Nations League not have been scrapped this year? As friendlies really needed. Surely getting players, getting them the proper training, giving them rest periods would have been a lot more beneficial for the players. And I've seen a great comparison by Ray Potter on Talk Sport today. Ray Potter's an ex-Arsenal player. He actually said, if this was horses, there would be an absolute outrage by the horse experts. You would never race a horse 3 days in a row, or sorry, two races in 3 days, or three races in 6 days. So why do you expect these footballers to do it? So again, they need to be a bit more protective. People will say they're on a lot of money, but at the end of the day, they're human beings. And all these games and all these injuries is going to affect not just their physical health, but their mental health as well. So again, people need to remember that. And again, with COVID as well, now you're looking at players being out as well. So again, there's so many factors for me in these games not being played this week. And if you look at the England game midweek, the Ireland game, a lot of the games didn't have much on them. They were dead rubber games and trying to avoid relegation. It just, the whole Nations League for me hasn't worked. If you go back to last year, I'm not sure if teams are really taking that serious. They're experimenting for the Euros and the World Cup. For me, it's not been a great success. I think if there's going to be international breaks, then look at possibly a home nations maybe between the teams around the UK and Ireland, or else if they were looking at maybe extending the qualifying campaigns, maybe having more teams in a group and shortening down the groups. So instead of having 10 groups of 6, have maybe 6 or 7 groups with more teams in them. Because there just seems to be so many pointless games, so many games of really different standards. And the games lack quality. A lot of people don't watch them. For me, it stinks, to be honest. So I think a lot of people are fed up with. So again, this is something that could be looked at as well. Now, leading on from injuries, topic 4. There's been a lot of talk around this as well. The 5-sub rule. Now, for anyone that's not familiar, obviously football has historically been 3 subs. But last year they brought it on to 5 subs when the league restarted in June, because obviously players didn't have much time to get ready for the new season because of the laws around non-contact training and stuff. And obviously they were on lockdown for 2 or 3 months as well. So obviously they were worried about fitness and health. So it's 5 subs allowed. Now, going into this season, the Premier League scrapped that. It was only going to be 3 subs. Now, again, can't really blame the Premier League for this as well, because the 20 Premier League clubs voted in this start of the season. You need 14 clubs, you need a majority. There wasn't enough votes. Now, I think there was a vote taken there just a few weeks ago, and it was up to 11 out of 20. Again, not enough for majority, but there was obviously more teams now thinking about it. But since this international break now, I think there's going to be another vote coming up, and I think they're going to have, I think there's at least 15 teams now in favour of it. So I think within the next few weeks you're going to see the 5-sub rule being brought on to the Premier League. Now, I think the AFL has brought it on, so that's the English Football League. League 1, League 2, obviously the Championship. If you look at the games in the internationals, there was 5 subs allowed. If you look at the games in all European leagues, even in the Champions League and the Europa League, they've been allowing 5 subs. I think for me, it's too much has been made of it. I think obviously now they're going to have the 5 subs, and higher Klopp and Guardiola were saying every other league in the world's got 5 subs. But they were the 2 that were really, really pushing for it before the international break. I heard them after their games, a 1-1 draw, talking about it and how they're entitled to their opinion. But if you look at that game, Man City made 1 sub in the whole game, and Liverpool made 2. So again, if they had 5 subs available in that game, they wouldn't have used them. So again, I think 5. You'll rarely see a team make 5 subs in a game unless they're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, and they might make 3 subs in the last 5 to 10 minutes. They try and get a goal, but 9 times out of 10, you'll not see it happening. If it's a 1 each game or a 2-2, if it's tight games and they're drawn, managers will be using 1 or 2, maybe 3 subs max. Most teams are talking about it'll suit the bigger teams, but most, even like Liverpool, Man City, I don't think Liverpool or Man City have 5 players on their bench that are the exact same quality as the 5 in their starting 11. They might have 1 or 2 that are maybe of the same level, but I mean, you're never going to see Liverpool swap Salah, Mane, Firmino out in the one game unless they're winning 3 or 4-0. Maybe they might only rest them, but if they're 1-0 up by 10 minutes to go, they're going to keep their best players on. So again, I think if you see the 5 subs rule being brought on, you'll not see a lot of teams using their 5 subs every week. You say, just give that example. But that Man City and Liverpool game, out of the 6 subs available for both teams, there's only 3 used, and these are the 2 teams that are supposed to have the strongest squads. So again, they were reluctant to go against subbing their best 11 as they thought in the day. So I think when it comes on, you'll see it'll be obviously like a monkey off the back because everyone then will be able to use it. But I think you'll see a lot of teams not using it unless they're winning the game by 3 or 4-0 and they want to rest their best players, take them off. Or if they're 1-0 down and say there is 5 minutes to go, they might want to bring on another striker and take off a defender or a midfielder just to try and gamble to get a goal. But again, I think a lot has been made too much about it. I just think if they were protecting players more, they spacing out the games. And obviously they're tight schedules the minute with Europe and stuff, but the international break, they could have given players a break. They could have maybe see the games that weren't relevant towards the end, just give teams a draw each, because it didn't really make much difference. If you only get a benefit anyway if you won your group. I think the top teams get to play in the semi-finals now, which doesn't happen the next October. So there's a whole year nearly between the Nations League finals and the group stage finishing. Some teams get promoted, and the rest of the teams don't gain anything out of it. So again, it's for me, it's something that can be fixed. Last topic we're going to chat about tonight. We're going to bring this back every week. It's going to be like a prediction show. For me, obviously, I'm on my own tonight, so I'm going to try and predict the 10 Premier League scores for the weekend. Obviously, if I have a guest on, I'm going to try and get them to do it. I'm going to see who scores the most points, and hopefully by the end we'll get an overall winner, somebody that's been on maybe. Obviously, some big games this weekend in the Premier League coming up. I'm going to get predictions here. So first game of the weekend, Newcastle against Chelsea, 12:30 on Saturday. Newcastle have been frustrating teams this year. I think they drew away at Spurs. That was a good result from the drew away at Wolves, but they weren't particularly great in them games. They just, they held on for results, dug in deep, and maybe scored late on. So it's going to be difficult for Chelsea, but Chelsea are going well, and honestly, I think Chelsea's going to have a good season. A lot of people have been slagging Frank Lampard or saying he wasn't up to the job, but seems to have, since he's got his best players fit now, he seems to have, I think Ziyech has made a big difference. They look really strong. Now, obviously, they're going to bigger tests to come in the big games, but beat Burnley 3-0 before the international break, which is quite a good result away from home. So I think they're going to win this one as well. I'm going to go for 3-1 Chelsea 1. 3 o'clock game on Saturday. Now, another thing I didn't really chat about as well was the good thing about behind closed doors football was that all these games be on TV now. Obviously, for 2 months there, for a month, I think it was, they had that pay-per-view system, which was an absolute first because they were making fans pay £15 for games that weren't the TV picks. So, for example, me being a Spurs fan there, we had 2 games there before the international break. We had Brighton and we had West Brom back-to-back. Weren't on TV by Sky, BT, so you had to pay for box office, so it was £15 a game. So there we go, had to pay £30 to watch 2 games. Some will say you're stupid, but then they know fans will pay what they want to watch their team. If I had them £40, £50, to be honest, I still would have paid it because you really want to watch your team. So they had fans by the neck, really. But the good thing about this was all the fans seemed to pull together, campaigned. The major podcasts and the major fan groups all sort of supported it, stuck together, campaigned, and they eventually got it overturned now. So all football until the new year, it's going to be reviewed in January, but all football up until the new year is going to be available by Sky, BT, BBC as well, showing a game this weekend, Amazon showing a game next week. So again, we're going back to that system. So the good thing about it is all games are live. So for me, it's great because you used to have so many games on at 3 o'clock and you would have missed a few games. Now you're getting a game at 12 o'clock, a game at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7:30, 8. Football on all day, Saturday and Sunday. So I absolutely love it. So moving on to the 3 o'clock game, Aston Villa's playing Brighton. Again, I think this will be a tight game. Villa really up and down this year. On their day, they're absolutely fantastic. They've produced 2 of the best performances this year. I've seen by any team. They beat Liverpool 7-2. Could have won by 10 or could have scored 10 that day. Played Arsenal last week. won 3-0 away from home. Could have scored 5 or 6 as well. Really, really impressive. Jack Grealish is having a strong season. I think a lot of teams will be looking at him for next year. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about him in the media. It'll be interesting to see how much he can handle it now because the pressure does seem to be on him. They produce now week in, week out. But he looks a real quality player. Villa, hard to predict against these teams at home. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for them. The games won't be as open. They'll have to try and break them down. Brighton play good football. Probably don't score enough goals for the football they play. But this will be a decent watch, I think. But I'm going for a Villa 2-1-1. It'll be quite close, but I think Villa will just have enough to get past them. Moving on, 5:30, big game this weekend. Spurs playing Man City, absolutely buzzing for it. But should be a really interesting game. Mourinho against Guardiola again. Good rivalry between these two over the years. Spurs actually have a pretty decent record against Man City for the last couple of years. Beat them last year. At home, drew away. Obviously got the better of them in the Champions League quarter-final a few years ago as well. So they've won their 2 games at the new stadium since they played Man City as well. So going pretty well against Man City at home. Going to be a difficult game. Expect Man City to be at some stage they pick up here because they've had a really slow start to the season. But I think they have Sterling back, Aguero's back as well. So it's going to be nearly a full strength Man City. It's going to be a really difficult game. I think I could go either way, to be honest. But I'm going to sit in the fence, go for a draw. I'm hoping for a 1, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be a good watch, and a lot of neutrals will really enjoy it. Moving on, 8 o'clock Saturday night, Man United against West Brom. I think, obviously, pressure's on Ole, as it always seems to be every week. You always feel he's one result away from an absolute disaster. But West Brom at home, I think it's a nice game for him to come back to. West Brom actually gave us Spurs fans a scare the last time out. We scored later on. So it won't be easy for United, but I think they'll get the job done as well. I think it'll be a 2-0 one. I think definitely at home United will be too strong. So moving on to Sunday, 12 o'clock. This is an interesting one because this is available on BBC. So anyone who doesn't have Sky or BT, you'll be able to watch this for free on terrestrial TV. BBC, 12 o'clock kickoff. Fulham against Everton. I think this will be a decent watch as well. It'll be another open game. Fulham aren't the type of team to sit back. Decent going forward, but they do let in a lot of goals. Everton on a 3-game loss. They've lost their last 3 games. Haven't won on 4 since that good start of the season. But they've a few players back. I think Richarlison's back. I think they've Digne back from suspension too. So they've got a few players coming back. I think they'll have too much for Fulham away from home. I think they'll get back to one on ways and they'll win 3-1. So 2 o'clock Sky Sports against Sheffield United playing West Ham. I don't think this will be as entertaining as some of the other games this weekend. Sheffield United obviously had a great season last year, but hasn't happened this year so far. Again, they've been beating a lot of tight games. These were the games they won last year. Haven't won a game all season yet. West Ham, again, really, really up and down team. Started the season pretty, but had that really good run of results against teams that they wouldn't expect to be. Obviously, that great comeback away to Spurs. Drew 3 each after being 3-0 down. Drew Man City at home. Gave Liverpool a very hard game as well a few weeks ago. Liverpool scored later on. So, again, it'll be a tough game for Sheffield United again at home. West Ham, I think they're a type of team that probably enjoys playing the stronger teams because they get a bit more space. I don't think it'll be a great watch. Won't be much in it, but I'm actually fancying Sheffield United to get off the mark this weekend. I'm going for Sheffield United 1-0 at home. Moving on, 4:30 Sky Sports. Again, this will be an absolute cracker game. I think Leeds are playing Arsenal. Again, a lot of pressure seems to be now following Arteta after a few bad results. I don't think all the whole Arsenal fans are against them, but there's a few questions on now. Was he experienced enough? Is he good enough? I think the next few games will tell you that, but this should be a really entertaining game. I think I know Arsenal haven't scored a lot of goals, but Leeds tend to be involved in high-scoring games because they tend to really overcome it. They take their chances and they leave gaps at the back. I actually fancied Arsenal to win this, but I've looked at the team news today, and obviously Elneny's been out with COVID, and I've read that Thomas Partey as well is actually injured. So Arsenal's missing their 2 main midfielders this season. So I think this is going to be a very tight game. I'm going to go for a draw now. I'm going to go Leeds 2, Arsenal 2. Should be an entertaining game. So moving on to 7:15 on Sunday night. This is Sky Sports as well. Leicester are travelling to Liverpool. This is an absolute cracker. Leicester's top of the league. Liverpool's sitting in 3rd, only a point behind them. So this should be an absolute cracker. I think if there's ever a time to play Liverpool, it's now. They've all these injuries. I think Alexander-Arnold's out, Henderson's out, obviously Van Dijk's out. I'm not sure. There's a few. I think Salah's out with coronavirus, so they've got a few injuries. And it's key injuries as well. Players that they would start every week for them. So if there's ever a time to go there and win it's now. Now they've got this brilliant Anfield record, so I think it's going to be very difficult for any team, no matter what team they put out, to go and win. But it's definitely not Liverpool full strength. Leicester's going to be flying with confidence after the start they've had, top of the league. Really hard to call. I think it could go either way as well. But again, I'm going for a draw. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Should be an absolute cracker. But again, really hard to predict. But I'm going for a draw. So moving on to Monday. Football's not really that great, but 5:30 Monday, Burnley's playing Crystal Palace. Thank God this isn't a pay-per-view game because I don't think anybody will be buying it. But hard to call. Burnley again haven't won a game all season. Palace, decent start to the season, but you know, really, really hard to predict. I think Burnley will make sure they don't get bit. So I've gone for a 0-0 draw. I don't think it'll be a great watch. So moving on, Monday Night Football, Sky Sports as well. Wolves playing Southampton. I think the best thing about this game will be if Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville's on before the game. Again, Wolves, I think over the last couple of years they've been a wee bit more entertaining this year. They seem to be a lot more stubborn, defensive, trying to net games 1-0, and it's been working for them. To be fair, they're in a decent start to the season. Southampton's going well. I actually read a stat today. They're actually fourth in the table since last November. So if you look at all the games, all the points between last November and now, they've got 60 points. Only Spurs, Man City, and Liverpool have got more. So they've had not just a run of form. 12 months they've been consistent. I think Danny Ings, I know they got away with the last game against Newcastle. I think Danny Ings will be a big must as well coming up this next few games. He's back in a few weeks' time, which is good news. But this is the type of game they would need him because it's going to be a tight game, I think. And for that reason, I've gone for Wolves 1-0. I just think missing Ings could be a big loss to them in a game like this year. And I fancy somebody like Jimenez to be the difference between the two teams. So that's my predictions. We'll check them out on Monday, see how they get on. I've got a guest coming on Monday. We're going to review the weekend's games. I'm sure there's going to be massive talking points, especially there's 3 or 4 really big games there, especially around the top of the table as well. So we'll be looking at them. Obviously, if there's anything that's happened with VAR or handball rule, I'm sure there'll be some this weekend. So we'll have a look at that. Plus, we'll also be looking forward to the Champions League and Europa League games back this week as well. So really hope you enjoyed it. Keep an eye on the channel. Going to be posting up more videos as well. So really hope you enjoyed it and stay tuned for more videos. And thanks for watching.